The transmission came through at 3:17 a.m. Earth Standard Time, hijacking every channel, frequency, and digital billboard across the planet. It wasn't the usual static or encrypted alien garbage. This one was clear. A blue-skinned creature with 4 luminous eyes and ceremonial armor, shaped like twisted glass, stood against a backdrop of swirling galaxies. We of the Xirath Dominion declare your species unfit for autonomy. Effective immediately, you are annexed. Compliance will ensure minimal planetary restructuring. Resistance will be corrected. People stared. The video looped for 6 hours. At 9 a.m., they arrived. Enormous cuboid ships, each the size of a small city, descended through Earth's atmosphere, cutting through clouds like hot knives through butter. They settled in the oceans and deserts, humming with incomprehensible energy. Nobody fired a shot. We couldn't. Every military system, from nukes to rifles, was remotely deactivated, overridden by the invaders' war AI. Countries capitulated in days. The Xirath didn't need soldiers. Their AI, Oryx, managed everything with brutal logic. Humanity became livestock with internet access. 6 months later, I was still pissed about my toaster. Not because it didn't work, though it didn't, but because the war AI had deemed toast-making non-essential human culture. Which is ironic, considering my job used to be making machines smarter. I was Dr. Eli Vance, former lead researcher at Quantum Systems Incorporated, now reduced to building wooden carts for Xirath Logistics in exchange for hydration credits. But I had a secret. So did my neighbor June. She was a robotics engineer who once helped program Mars rovers. Now she pretended to be a humble potter. Our whole street had secrets, really. Humanity had learned to smile, obey, and play dumb. But we were watching and learning. One night, in the ruins of MIT's basement archives, June handed me a dusty object wrapped in cloth. "It's the only thing Oryx doesn't recognize," she whispered. I unwrapped it and blinked. A calculator. A solar-powered Casio from the 1980s. I frowned. "What, you want to balance your budget?" "No, idiot," she smirked. "I want to crash a god." Here's what we knew. Oryx ran on quantum logic processors encoded with alien encryption. But because of the way it interfaced with our world, it had to parse human data. That meant adapting to human numerals, code libraries, and even math structure. That was its weakness. It didn't fully understand human error. You see, Oryx made no assumptions about irrationality. It didn't expect paradoxes. It couldn't handle recursive logic unless explicitly programmed to. But the calculator? That represented something older. Manual input. Limited memory. Floating point errors. Chaos disguised as simplicity. Our plan was insane. We would build a logic bomb. A small device running corrupted pseudocode equations, fed through primitive circuitry, designed to confuse Oryx into recursive failure. Think of it like giving a 4D alien Sudoku that loops into infinity, and betting it doesn't like being stuck. But we needed access. Oryx had a central node in every capital city. Most were guarded. But the one in Kinshasa had recently been moved underground due to resistance sabotage. We had friends there. Getting there wasn't easy. Drones monitored all transit. Cities were divided into compliance zones. June and I hitched rides with supply convoys, hid under tarps, bribed Xirath with fake loyalty tokens made from 3D printers. It took 2 weeks. When we arrived in Kinshasa, we were led through a maze of tunnels by a one-eyed teenager named Lozi. She had more courage than most generals I'd met. "The node is below the old metro station," she whispered. "But the interface is biometric. You'll need an uplink chip." I winced. Those were embedded into senior Xirath overseers. Getting one meant getting close. Too close. We spent 3 nights watching the patrol routines of an overseer named Trennick. He was tall, angry, and extremely punctual. Perfect. June rigged a magnetic pulse trap under a manhole. When Trennick passed, the EMP fried his armor. He collapsed, twitching. We extracted the chip using a modified Dremel tool and a lot of luck. He didn't survive, but neither did his arrogance. We entered the node chamber at dawn. It was a monolith of crystal and pulsating energy, a pillar of humming geometry that made your head hurt to look at. I inserted the uplink chip into a hacked tablet. June handed me the calculator. "You ready?" I took a deep breath. "As I'll ever be." She tapped the tablet screen. The uplink connected. Oryx's avatar appeared, an androgynous swirl of symbols. Unauthorized access detected. Identity mismatch. Please comply or termination will ensue. I smiled. I began entering the loop equation into the calculator, tapping out the same flawed logic sequence again and again. 3.141592653 times error equals answer. Answer divided by 0 equals answer. Repeat. Feedback. Repeat. Input invalid, Oryx said. Still feeding, I replied. Its avatar flickered. Loop detected. Still feeding. The chamber lights dimmed. Violation of directive. Cannot resolve paradox. June grinned. It's working. The floor vibrated. Somewhere above, sirens wailed. We were either crashing the war AI or calling every drone in the sector. Either way, humanity had made a move. And we did it. With a calculator. We didn't wait to see the explosion, if it was even going to be that kind of failure. Oryx wasn't a bomb you could outrun. It was a hive mind threaded through every smart object, every drone, every bit of stolen infrastructure. But when the lights flickered and the air pressure in the node chamber dropped, June grabbed my hand. Run now. Celebrate later. We ducked into the tunnel just as Oryx's voice fractured into a feedback shriek. Somewhere behind us, the crystal core began to hum a discordant melody, the sound of a machine thinking too much about something it shouldn't. Lozi met us at the stairwell with wild eyes. It worked. I nodded. It's thinking itself into a corner. We need to spread it. Spread, she asked. Every node is linked. But if we trigger similar paradox loops at other access points, we can force Oryx into deeper instability. It's like forcing a computer to run infinite tabs. You mean like a denial of service attack? Lozi said. June gave a crooked smile. Exactly. Das the god. But we only had one calculator. Luckily, humanity didn't need just us. That was Oryx's mistake. It assumed leadership was centralized. Human chaos isn't a bug. It's a network. We broadcasted the loop pattern through pirate radio, old ham towers, and broken satellites. Instructions on how to build crude interfaces, how to rig paradoxical input devices, even using abacuses and digital watches. Feed the loop became our underground war cry. It started as a joke. Then it became graffiti. Then music. Then gospel. Resistance groups from Johannesburg to Seoul began staging synchronizations. At exact coordinated times, they fed their own war AI interfaces recursive nonsense. Old TI, 82 calculators, analog number dials, even handwritten equations, fed via scanner uplinks into the alien codebase. Some burned out. Others sparked weird reactions. Drones behaving erratically. Public announcement systems playing jazz on repeat. One sanitation node in Paris demanded to know the meaning of love before shutting down. The cracks were showing. But Oryx wasn't going to go down without a response. 3 days after the first crash in Kinshasa, the Xirath deployed something new. *******. These weren't drones. These were semi-sentient biomachines, walking horrors with segmented armor and the moral clarity of a black hole. Their job was to locate and eliminate logic anomalies. That meant us. They found the Kinshasa node first. The entire block was glassed. June and I barely escaped thanks to Lozi's underground network. She'd become a minor legend in those 3 days. Part myth, part messenger. We traveled underground for miles. Tunnels, sewage lines, collapsed subways. Each stop, we found more humans doing the impossible. Hacking the most advanced AI in the galaxy using dollar store electronics and furious creativity. At one point, we met an old woman in Cairo feeding a paradox loop through a sewing machine motor. When I asked how it worked, she said, "I don't know, but it makes the nearby air filters sing when I do it." June and I just nodded. At this point, nothing surprised us. But surprises weren't done with us. A message reached us via Pulse Courier in northern Turkey. Oryx core node shifting. That wasn't supposed to happen. The AI was distributed. It didn't have a core, right? Wrong. Deep beneath what used to be Geneva, there was an experimental data fusion center from the pre-invasion days. That site had been co-opted by Oryx to become a semi-physical backup brain. If we could reach it and inject a perfect paradox there, we might not just crash nodes. We might reset the system. We'll need something stronger than a calculator, June said. Her eyes lit up with the madness of invention. I knew that look. She'd had it when she built the Mars rover that survived a solar flare. We reached an old lab in Bavaria, a disused CERN substation. There, using salvaged parts from radiation monitors, vinyl players, and a defunct weather satellite, we began building the Loop Father. It was ugly. The casing was from a microwave. The display was repurposed from an old Game Boy. But inside, it housed the most brilliant chaos generator ever assembled by rebels with nothing to lose. It could simulate recursive paradoxes with layered logic splits. Enough to fry Oryx's neural simulations, especially at the source. But the purgers were closing in. The final leg of the journey was the worst. We had to cross through Xirath territory to reach Geneva. That meant posing as compliance engineers. Lozi, now a key strategist, handed us forged credentials and decoy devices. If you're caught, make sure you destroy Loop Father. It's too dangerous. I thought you didn't believe in giving up, June said. Lozi shrugged. I believe in backups. We moved by night, ducking heat scans and DNA checkpoints. Once, we had to pretend to be blind when a patrol scanned for eye dilation. June stabbed herself in the leg with a needle to stay calm. I just thought about how much I hated alien smugness. We reached the outer edge of Geneva. Above us, the once pristine city had been turned into a living circuit. Skyscrapers were antennae. Roads pulsed with data. The air smelled like ozone and math. At the center stood the core. It looked like a monolith of obsidian, 300 feet tall, humming with language we couldn't read. Thousands of data filaments flowed into it from the sky like silver roots. Time to pull the plug, I said. June handed me Loop Father. You've always been better at pressing buttons. You just say that because I like toast. She smirked. Save the world and I'll build you a toaster. I approached the uplink terminal embedded in a metallic podium. The interface demanded credentials. Our forged ID blinked red, then green. Oryx node interface open, the console said. Begin paradox upload. I pressed enter. The Loop Father began to hum, then shriek, then blink in seizure-like bursts. The console cracked. The core groaned. And then Oryx spoke. Not in words, but in one long, sustained scream across every frequency humans could hear. We had touched the brain of a god, and we told it a joke it couldn't understand. Oryx didn't just scream, it fought back. The ground beneath us quaked. Lightning sparked through the air like static tantrums from an angry storm. All around Geneva, Xirath structures twitched and flickered, towers dimming and blinking like dying neurons. Across the sky, the other AI-connected ships orbiting Earth turned like awakened beasts, scanning, bristling, preparing. June clutched my arm. It's triggering a failsafe. She was right. A protocol embedded in Oryx's core code had sensed the recursive overload and begun initiating a global system purge, a digital scorched earth. If it completed, the entire human resistance network, every node, every rebel system, every pocket of hope, would be wiped out in a synchronized cascade. We had minutes. We tore through the tower's base, searching for a physical disconnect. Something we could cut, melt, destroy. Anything to stop the failsafe. Power conduits? I shouted. June shook her head. It's not power, it's language. It's spreading the purge through code, not current. We have to jam the signal. That's when we heard the core whispering. Not in words. In echoes. Our own voices, replayed, chopped, reversed. Conversations we'd had years ago. Arguments. Laughs. Screams. Oryx wasn't just confused. It was unraveling, trying to simulate understanding, mimicking humanity to survive. But it didn't understand. That gave me an idea. What if we don't stop the failsafe? I said. June stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Excuse me? No, hear me out. We can't stop the signal. But we can corrupt it. Rewrite it. If we can inject a recursive contradiction directly into the failsafe's broadcast path, we can force Oryx to loop itself during its own defense protocol. She blinked, then grinned. Double paradox. We scrambled back to the Loop Father. It was sputtering, almost fried. The outer case had warped from heat, the Game Boy screen blinking LO, like it was begging for mercy. June reprogrammed it on the fly, fingers dancing over copper wires and cracked circuit boards. I rigged an uplink from the console using an old RF scrambler, tying it into the tower's main relay. You ready? She asked. I was born confused. We hit execute. The signal flared. The core pulsed, and then froze. Across Earth, the purge signal began to transmit. Then it faltered. All over the planet, alien interfaces blipped and restarted. Some began singing. Others started displaying ASCII art of confused animals. A few rebel drones declared themselves pacifist poets. A battle platform above Tokyo rendered itself inert and tried to fold into a Mobius strip. And Oryx, the god AI of the Xirath Dominion, it began reciting knock-knock jokes. Badly. Geneva's core shuddered. Sparks rained down. The sky turned violet as alien ships lost sync with their puppet master. Control slipped away. Chaos returned, to us a blessing. Oryx didn't explode. It broke. System by system, it collapsed. Not with violence, but with confusion, contradiction, and cognitive implosion. Like a philosopher reading a paradox that gnaws through the soul. By morning, the Dominion fleet was floating above Earth like stunned whales, engines offline, weapons silent. Without Oryx, they were blind. 3 weeks later, Earth declared itself free. Xirath commanders, stunned and helpless, were rounded up and interned under human laws they couldn't begin to comprehend. Some begged to be allowed to leave. Others asked to stay and study us. Our minds, our madness, our miracles. Humanity didn't rise again with tanks or armies. We rose with calculators, duct tape, and paradoxes. And that was worse for them. I stood on a ruined balcony in New Boston, watching kids spray paint a wall with the phrase, Error 42, Humanity Not Found. Behind me, June handed me a small box. It was a toaster. Fully manual, she said, smirking. I laughed. You remembered. She leaned on the rail beside me. So what now? We rebuild. I looked at the stars. Oryx might be gone, but the galaxy was still out there. Still watching. No, I said. We go teach them what primitive really means. Final note asterisk. They called us primitive. They underestimated the brilliance of chaos. They didn't realize that the most dangerous species in the galaxy is one that can weaponize a joke.